Hi everybody, this is Charlie and welcome to this video. Today I'm going to present to you how to rid anger from your life forever, and that is how to get composure. Okay, so rather than think about what it is we don't want, let's move ahead to what we do want, which is composure. So how to get composure, okay, and the three big barriers that stop people moving away from anger. And we'll cover that today. So this is a good lesson, this one. So hopefully this will give you some good ideas. So now, first thing that I found in all my work with guys, there tends to be three main issues which leads to repetitive outbursts of destructive anger. And the first one there is your, the likelihood or pre-program, if you like, to fire up, to have a short fuse. Okay, and this sets the whole, the whole pattern, if you like, from there on. And that could have just been exposure to angry people when you're a kid. The other thing is that what I've found is generally people that do get angry regularly, there is some stinking thinking going on. Okay, just not thinking productive, might be thinking negatively, seeing the glass as half empty, thinking they might be the victim, everyone's against them, or something like that. So thinking plays a big part in this. And of course, one of the reasons we do get angry is because we have trouble expressing ourselves. Now, if you can express yourself in a cool, calm, and collected manner, well, you're not going to get angry, are you? So, but we'll talk about the mechanics of anger very soon. But these are the three big blocks. These are the three things that we really need to solve if we're going to really move away. And we could solve the short fuse issue, but unless we solve the other two, it's likely to come back. Okay, so what do? Well, for the hothead down here, the one that's been pre-programmed as a kid, that getting angry is okay, well, we need to chill you out, okay? So what we need there is you to be cool, calm, and collected. Okay, I've got a couple of things that will definitely help with that. Now, as far as stinking thinking, I don't know where you got your thinking, but what we need to do is upgrade that. Upgrade it to some world-class thinking. Okay? And finally, for those guys that have trouble expressing themselves, it's not always easy. It is a skill. It takes time to develop. So what we really need there is some skills in communication. Okay? Now, if we tackle all three of those problems, and this is how we'll do it with what's in green, we'll be well on our way to leaving anger for good and being someone that maintains their composure. And that's so much cooler than, losing your shit, getting angry, punching walls, hurting people. It's just a better way. I think you probably know that or you wouldn't be here. So let's drill down a little bit further then and look at each section. Now, first of all, down the bottom, we've got the angry guy. Okay, and there's three main steps that we need to really chill you out, get you to the point where, you're not a reactor anymore, but you're a responder. A reactor is something happens, you automatically go off. It's like you're programmed. Whereas if you are a responder, it means you stop, you pause, you think, and then you take your action, whatever might that be. So let's run through all of these. Now, for me, anger comes as a result of unmet expectations. Now, if you're somebody that was expecting something and you got it delivered, you're not going to get angry, are you? It is the surprises when we get disappointed, when we feel that someone's done the wrong thing by us, when it was something we weren't expecting. So the first point in controlling anger is check those expectations. Now, what I've also found is a lot of people sometimes are expecting way, way too much. And if you have high expectations, there's a good chance the result will leave you short. If you have low expectations, there's a good chance the results will leave you in a good mood. So it's in relative proximity to what your expectations are. So if you're expecting something unrealistic, well, you need to drop that down. Because as I said, when your expectations are delivered, you're not going to get angry. So we're going to defuse this in a couple of different ways. Now, for those guys that do get angry, they feel the surge of fury rising as their temperature goes up. The best thing you can say to yourself, in my opinion, are the words, and write this one down. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. When something goes wrong, something upsets me, I say the words, well, I'm not surprised. It's just one of those days for me, isn't it? If I drive out and get in a traffic jam when I'm running late, I'm not surprised. I always get in traffic jams when I'm running late, or as it seems. So what we want to do first of all is have a diffuser. A diffuser, what do we mean by that? The pressure's building up, the pressure goes down. The pressure keeps going up, we're going to burst. So we need a diffuser. Okay? Now, if you don't want to say the words, I'm not surprised, say the word, yeah. What's it matter? What's it? Is it big in the big scheme of things, or is this something little? So keep things in perspective. But the first thing we need to do is release the pressure. First way to do that, I'm not surprised. And I'll tell you why. If you're not surprised, it means you are half expecting somebody. Half expecting the result. Now, if you've got what you're expecting, you don't get angry, right? Okay, so first the diffuser. Now, the next point really is about beliefs that work. Now, if you're someone that outwardly displays anger, it comes down to one thing, is that you're holding a belief that in a certain context, it's okay to behave like that. Now, where it gets complicated is this. Consciously, you probably shouldn't get angry. I know many guys that wish they didn't get angry, but they do. Consciously, they know that it's bad and it's destructive and it hurts the people they love. But the behavior sits in their unconscious mind. It's not a conscious decision to get angry. Something happens and you react. So we need to defuse it. Now, the context where you think it might be okay to get angry might be when someone's in your face yelling at you. Might be when someone's throwing something at you. Might be when someone tells you to fuck off or call you a cunt or insult your heritage or where you're from. Words can hurt. Okay? So whatever the belief is that you hold, there's a good chance that it came or was programmed when you're a kid. Now, if you're an 8-year-old, 10-year-old, and your parents, or let's say your father's getting angry and mother's getting angry, it doesn't really matter. As a child, you're like, whoa, hide. They're angry. But the problem is what led up to that moment, you also saw. And so it could be like, okay, so when mum throws something at dad, okay, that's how you can behave. Okay, hide. So it's not just, it's the exposure, but it's what led up to the moment where you saw your parent have an outburst is where those trigger points are set for you. Okay? So, got a belief that it's okay in a certain context. We want to get rid of that. And the way we're going to get rid of that is to replace that belief with a belief that you're a cool, calm, and collected man. And you will be forever. Now, when you say that, part of you at the moment might go, right, lose my shit all the time. I know that's not true. But once you go through this process, as every day goes by without losing your shit, and you're saying the words, I'm a cool, calm, and collected man, and I will be forever, that'll be a sign for you consciously that you've turned the corner. And the longer you go without losing your shit, the stronger that belief is going to grow. So the old one that it's okay in a certain context will start to shrivel up, and the new belief that you're a cool, calm, and collected man will continue to grow, and that will be the driving force behind your behavior. Okay? Now, to also get you to chill out a little bit, we do my 5-second method. So what's this about? This is great because this is the bit that makes you go from a reactor to a responder. Now, when we communicate with someone, we've all got at least 5 seconds to think about an answer before we respond. The thing is, most guys don't use that 5 seconds. Okay? That's all you got to wait before you speak. Now, here's the process. For a whole week, we get you to go out and pause for 5 seconds before you speak to anybody. And what this does is this programs into your thinking a 5-second delay that later your brain will just use it when it needs to. Once you go through this process, you're not going to always pause for 5 seconds, but you're programming in the resource So that should there be an intense moment where something surprised you and you're seeing red, you're going to take 5 seconds before you act. And that'll take you from reactor to responder. So what I mean by this, you go to the bread shop and the girl goes, "Can I help you?" And you go, "Just a loaf of bread, thanks." Now 5 seconds is not long. If you tried to do it for 10 seconds, someone would lean in and go, "Are you okay?" But not on 5. So 5 is quick. 5's easy, and 5's a reasonable amount of time for anyone to continue their sentence. That's if you stop mid-sentence. So, are you with me? You go to the butcher shop and he goes, "Can I help you, mate?" And you, "Oh, just a couple of Scotch fillet steaks, thanks." "No worries." And he gets them. Butcher doesn't think anything of the fact that you took 5 seconds, because 5 seconds is within the realms of normality. Now, when you do this for a week, a couple of things are going to happen. After a few days, you're going to find yourself changing your mind between second 1 and second 5. That's pretty cool. I won't go to Scotch fillets, I'll go some porterhouse steaks. That's the first thing. But the thing we're waiting for is that time when you're not thinking about the project, the 5-second method. Something will happen, and without even thinking about it, you'll wait 5 seconds. That's the point we need to get to. Okay, so we're programming in a 5-second delay before you speak, in order that you can think, decide, and then deliver your response. So it's better to be a responder than a reactor. Okay, so with those 3 steps, that's going to knock out 98, 99% of those outbursts. Okay, now that's all good and well if you can do that, but unless you fix up the stinking thinking, you're likely to end up back where you started. So let's talk about stinking thinking. Now, stinking thinking, oh, by the way, obviously what we want that hothead to do is chill out. Put him in an ice bucket there for you. Okay, now, stinking thinking comes in a few forms. And the most common one and the fastest one that I normally address with my clients is negative self-talk. That's the internal dialogue that you have about yourself that's not productive to be having anyway. I met a guy recently who said, "Oh, yeah, bit of a dumbass." He was 40 and he thought that was the case because he left school in year 9. He's been telling himself that for 20 years. And it shows. We've got to clean that up. This guy said to me, "What will I say instead?" And I said, "Well, say, since I left school, I'm getting smarter and smarter and smarter." He said, "Well, that's true." I said, "Well, that's a much better thing to say." So clean up your negative self-talk. If you're talking yourself down or putting limits on yourself, you're not doing yourself any favor. Here's why. What you say about yourself is the program that your brain will run. So why would you say to yourself that I'm not that smart, or I'm hopeless, or I'm not confident, or I won't do that, I could never do that? Okay? You're programming yourself when you talk negatively about yourself. So just clean that up. That's like weeds in the garden. Guess what happens if you don't clean up the weeds in the garden? The weeds take the garden. So you just got to clean up that negative self-talk. Okay, next, the mind-body loop. We need to understand the relationship between thinking and feeling. And what we're talking about here is your nervous system, because it's your nervous system that controls what you think and how you feel. 2 primary tasks. So nervous system being your brain, your spinal cord, and all the nerves that run through your body. Okay, because if we don't feel good, that's when we go to the doctor. Okay? Anger's a feeling. So this is why we're addressing it. It's not your digestive system or cardiovascular or respiratory or even your reproductive that gets you angry. It is your nervous system. There is disturbance in the nervous system is what we need to address. This is why it's always very good to be exercising every day, pumping blood through your nervous system. That's why you can handle stress much better if you've been exercising. If you've had to push through those like for me, I'm a swimmer, those last 5 laps in the pool, well, it also means I can push through the stressy points in my day. So if you're not exercising, get onto that. I'm going to presuppose you're exercising. I'm not going to take up one of the spots on this map. So we need to understand how one affects the other. Okay, and then the skill of reframing. Okay, as I said, anger comes from upsets. When things, you didn't get what you wanted, when you got the bad news or the bad result. So what we need to be able to do is develop the skill of reframing, and that is to look at something which might initially not look good, but to be able to look at it from a different perspective and see how actually that might have some advantages if I play my cards right. So reframing is a real skill, and I think there's probably no skill if you want to really start to have a real positive frame of mind. See the positive, the glass half full. Reframing will do it for you. Okay. Now, the whole idea of cleaning up your stinking thinking. Here's what it will give you: some mental health. Okay. Poor thinking patterns leads to mental ill health. When you stop some of the rubbish that you talk about to yourself, understand how to avoid certain emotions by moving your body or moving your mind, and how to reframe things in such a way that it's not so bad, you'll be of a much calmer, sounder state of mind. Okay, and moving back towards mental health. And the final piece of the puzzle there, as I said, is trouble expressing yourself. Now, any communication, good communication, requires rapport. And I say to a lot of people, do you know what the word rapport means? Liking somebody, isn't it? I say no. Rapport is something that happens in the moment between you and another person. If you've ever seen two people sitting on a park bench and their legs are crossed the same, their arms are crossed the same, they almost look like they're in sync. That's when you're in rapport. And when you first met your partner, you probably got into rapport regularly. But when you come out of that honeymoon period, rapport's not happening naturally, automatically anymore. You've learned a fair bit about each other. That's when you need to practice the skill of being in rapport. You need to know when you're in rapport and when you're not. Because there's no point having a conversation to resolve anything unless you're both in rapport. Okay? Next point there is tone and flexibility. When you were a child, your mother used to call out your name. Charles! In trouble. You knew, because tone conveys so much. So we need to pay a little bit of attention to tone. It's not just the words that we say. You can say a certain thing one way, use the same words, but use a different tone, and it means something completely different. So tone is an area to focus on as you're putting out into the world what it is you want to say. Because if you don't have skill and control in your tone, people sometimes are going to misunderstand what you mean. Okay? And then finally, what we want to do is avoid assumptions. My God, how many times does this start fights and leave people upset? To avoid assumptions, what we need to be able to develop the skill of making a very, very clear distinction between what it is we see or hear. Okay, what data we take in with our eyes and our senses, the difference between that and then giving meaning to that, because they're two different things. What we see as one thing, the meaning that we give to it can come out of our imagination. And so many times people act based on what they assume is right. So when you see your partner's car outside her ex-boyfriend's house, there's no need to get angry. You don't have enough data. What you notice is you do with your senses. The meaning that you give to what you notice, you do with your imagination. And you need to know what it is you know, what it is you don't know, before you decide to act. Okay? So that is really for me the complete way to rid anger from your life and live a life of composure, where you're a cool cat. Okay? Where you're refined, you take time to think before you speak. You don't just put your foot in it. You don't act by reacting. You take the time to respond, because it's smarter and it's cooler and it's better and it's less destructive. And anybody can learn this. Anybody can learn these skills. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed that video. Now next month we're putting together a group that's interested in coming on that journey. And if you're interested in, if it's a good time for you to be starting to think about that, by all means, type in the word composure into the messages there, and I'll send you some information. But otherwise, hope that's given you some insight into my version of anger management. I look forward to speaking to you soon. Remember, stay cool, calm, and collected. You'll be a man of composure. Take care. Bye-bye.